good people? You are now listening to another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and this one is just going to be a real quick mini-sode. So the first half of the MLB season is wrapped up. I'm going to go over the standings and see which teams are at the top of their respective divisions. But first and foremost, I got to give a shout out to the Charleston Riverdogs because they did one of my favorite promotions ever this past Saturday night. They gave away these Hawaiian t-shirts to the first 1,000 fans that made it through the gates on Saturday. And there was a doubleheader that Saturday. Friday's game ended up getting rained out in the third inning. So the first game was at 4 o'clock, and they would open the gates up at 5 for the people that weren't there to catch the first game. They wanted to wait in line to get their Hawaiian shirts. And I made sure I got there at a relatively early time so I could secure one of these shirts. And apparently, a lot of people felt the same way I did. I probably waited in line probably about an hour and 15 minutes. And whenever I turned around, that line was wrapped all the way around the block. I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of people that want to get their hands on these shirts too. So luckily, it hadn't rained yet. But while we were in line, the sky got dark and it started thundering. I'm like, oh, Lord, here we go again. We about to get another rain out. But thankfully, the rain held off just long enough for the gates to open, scan my ticket and walk through the gates and walk up the steps and get my shirt. Then 10 minutes later, bottom fell on out in the middle of game one of the doubleheader. And that rain delay was probably about an hour and a half. So they got soaked again. And eventually I ended up leaving that game. But thankfully, they had the game broadcast on a local TV station down here called the Palmetto Sports Channel. Every now and then, they'll show Riverdogs games on TV. And they ended up walking off the first game. And then the second game, they ended up losing. I didn't think they was going to start the games back up again, but I think they started back up probably about 7:30. And yeah, they ended up losing to the Myrtle Beach Pelicans in game 2. And they split the twin bill. And right now, I think they're sitting at about a game or two under 500. But there's still a lot of games to be played in the second half of the season. So what they do in the Carolina League is whoever has the best record or the two best records in each division in the first half of the season, they clinch an automatic playoff berth. So hopefully the Riverdogs can turn things around and clinch one of those two spots for the playoffs in the second half of the season. So shout out to them. And now that the first half of the MLB season is up, we're going to get into the MLB standings. So going to the NL East, the Philadelphia Phillies are atop the NL East with a record of 55-41. They're half game above the New York Mets, who have a record of 55-42. The Marlins, of all people, are in the middle of the pack, albeit they're 10.5 games out of first place, with a record of 44-51. Feels weird saying that the Marlins are actually anywhere else in the NL East but last place, but hey, shout out to them. Then the Braves, who've been a super disappointment this year, are second to last in the NL East with a record of 42-53. They're 12.5 out of first place. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. And then the Washington Nationals, 20 games below 500. They're 17.5 out of first. So tough sledding for them. Then moving on to the NL Central, the Chicago Cubs reign supreme in the NL Central with a record of 57-39. But the Milwaukee Brewers are hot on their heels. They're one game behind them for first place in NL Central. The Cardinals are in the middle at 51-46, 6.5 out. The Cincinnati Reds are 7.5 out with a record of 50-47. And the Pirates, once again, bringing up the rear with a record of 39-58. They're 18.5 out in the division. Then moving over to the NL West, the Dodgers had a bit of a slump. They had gone on a 7-game losing streak, 3-7 in their last 10 games, but it don't even matter. They still have a comfortable 5.5 game lead over the Padres. Dodgers are 58-39, Padres are 52-44. Giants are right behind the Padres with a record of 52-45. The D-backs, 11 games out, second to last in the division with a 47-50 record. And those dreaded Colorado Rockies bringing up the rear, 35.5 games out of first place with a record of 22-74. My Lord. Then moving over to the American League, the Blue Jays. Everybody look out for the Toronto Blue Jays because they are now your leaders in the AL East with a record of 55-41. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They have a 2-game lead over the New York Yankees. Red Sox in the middle of the pack with a 53-45 record. They're 3 games behind the Blue Jays. Tampa Bay with a record of 50-47. They're 5.5 games out. They're second to last in the division. And the Baltimore Orioles, 43-52, 11.5 games out. Albeit they're 6-4 in their last 10, but still bringing up the rear in the AL East. Then moving on to the AL Central, the Detroit Tigers. Running things. I mean, absolutely running things in AL Central. They're 59-38, 21 games over 500, have a extremely comfortable, silly posturepedic 11.5 game lead over the Minnesota Twins. The Kansas City Royals in the middle with a record of 47-50. They're 12 games back. Cleveland Guardians also 12 games back with a record of 46-49. And White Sox going White Sox. Them sorry ass suckers from the South Side with a record of 32-65. Man, 27 games out of first place. Keep hope alive, White Sox. And then moving over to the AL West. Those damn Astros. Every year they do this shit. I'm so sick of them. Shout out to Dean Stevens. They have a 5-game lead over the Seattle Mariners with a record of 56-40. Mariners are second with a record of 51-45. My beloved Texas Rangers, they're a game below 500 with a record of 48-49. They're 8.5 games out. The Angels are 9 games out. Get well soon, Ron Washington. Then bringing up the rear in the AL West are the Athletics. I don't care. They're still Oakland to me. They're going to have a record of 41-57. They're 16 games out of first place. And next thing I want to talk about is some milestones that occurred over the last couple of weeks. Number one, I got to give a big shout out to one of my favorite pitchers to watch, Clayton Kershaw, who notched his 3,000th career strikeout with the LA Dodgers. It's hard to wrap my mind around the fact that he's spent his entire career with that franchise. That's a testament to his loyalty and his stick-to-itiveness. And big shout out to Clayton Kershaw, man. 3,000 strikeouts. See you in Cooperstown. And then former Charleston Riverdog Aaron Judge became the fastest player in MLB history to reach 350 career home runs. So big salute to Aaron Judge. It was a blast seeing you literally start your career playing in Charleston, wearing that number 35 for the Charleston Riverdogs. And last but not least, one of the coolest things I've seen in quite some time, Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins actually hit for the cycle on Byron Buxton bobblehead night. That's like a Halley's Comet chance of an occurrence right there. So, again, shout out to those 3 guys. Keep doing your thing. And last but not least, we're going to get in depth about the first half of the MLB season on Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. With my podcast partner, Brandon Silvers, I was recently a guest on there talking about my beloved Oklahoma City Thunder winning the championship. Myself, along with friend of the podcast, Brett Gosnell, we're going to talk about all things first half of the MLB season, talk about surprises and disappointments in our picks for midseason awards. So looking forward to that one. Y'all stay tuned. And that's going to do it for this episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Tell a friend about the podcast. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find that at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find videos for every episode of this podcast, as well as my Candle podcast, A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth, Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, and Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. And until next time, y'all be good. 3 strikes.